ask you, this is going back a little bit to what we were talking earlier, so I'm circling back a little bit, but this was a question that was on my heart. You shared it, I think it was on Trans Visibility Day.
Yeah.
You shared what I thought was just such a beautiful share about the complexity of being who you are, and that you shared the good and the bad and the messiness and the beauty. And I just, as I was looking at it, I thought, what a gift. Because when in this work that I do, teaching people how to hold space, one of the things that becomes such a barrier for a lot of people is that we have been kind of trained for the binary, to see things as good and
Hmm.
bad, and evil and good, and black and white, and etc. And it felt like there was such a gift in um, paying attention to the way that trans and non-binary people see the world, that allows us to shift out of that binary thinking. And it feels like such a blessing. And so I'd love to hear you talk about that in yourself and in your own journey, like evolving. And one of the teachers in this, Richard Rohr, I don't know if you've ever read his work, but he
Yeah.
talks about in his book Falling Upward, the two halves of life, of spirituality, and when we evolve into a less binary kind of spirituality, into a place of more ambiguity and capacity to see complexity and things. And so I would, if you don't mind talking a little bit about that for yourself and how that evolved for you, I'd love to hear
Oh
that.
yeah, totally. So it's so when I was young, I thought that gender was a binary. It was like, you've got male, you've got female. I didn't even know that intersex people existed.
Mhm.
And then when I transitioned, when I first learned about like that transgender was a thing that I could do, I started seeing the world differently. And I think the one thing that made me see the world the most differently was I had a friend, and one day he started treating me differently than he treated me yesterday. It's like, okay, a switch flipped in his brain from Pace is male to Pace is female. And our interactions were different. Like, a lot of it was subtle and kind of hard to describe, but our conversational flow was different. Like just his body language was different. The tone of it's all subtle stuff. Again, it's hard to explain, but it was very different. And it was one day. I was the same person yesterday as I was tomorrow. Like, but my interactions, like his mental model of me put me in one box, took me out of the box, put me in the other box. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, that's not me. Like, I'm the same person. And you are treating me as, somebody in a box, but like, I'm a person first and foremost. Like, yeah, sure, I'm a woman. But that, like, my core identity didn't change when I changed my gender role, when I changed my body, when I changed my gender expression. I'm still the same person that I was. And the insight that I had is, so is everybody. Everybody, regardless of whether they're transgender or cisgender, everybody's just a person. And like, yes, gender has a strong effect, and society's gender roles and patriarchy has a very strong effect on the culture and how we develop as kids and as adults. And it's not intrinsic. It's something that we've been acculturated to for decades, but it's not our essence. It's not the core of who we are. And being able to see that not just in myself, but in everyone, helped me feel connected to every single person on the planet in a deeper way. And like, you don't, even though being trans gives you a very unique perspective on this, you can still experience this if you're any kind of edge walker, if you're any kind of away from the mainstream, because if you are different and you notice how people treat you differently based on what their conception of you is, then you've just experienced the difference between the true you and the you that is believed to be in a box.
Yeah.
And so anyone who's off the beaten path can experience their own version of this liberation from the binary. If people say you have to either like sell your soul and work for the man or follow your heart and do what you love for a living, what if there's something else?
Yeah.
If people say you've got to be either male or female, what if there's something else? If people say you've got to be, if people say that this particular action you're taking is either good or evil, maybe there's another way you can judge that. Like there's just binaries all over the place, and the only way to be truly liberated is to question them. Like some of them exist. Like I'm not giving up on good and evil. Like I'm still avoiding doing evil things. Like because
Yeah.
in my experience, only evil people say, there's not really a difference between good and evil.
Yeah.
But but even just the questioning itself has a lot of value.